Most people think long-term food storage means buying expensive survival rations or bulk kits online, but the truth is, some of the longest-lasting, most reliable foods, they're already sitting on your local grocery store shelf. No gimmicks, no freeze-dried science fiction, just real food that lasts a decade or more if you store it right. And in a time when prices are rising and the supply chain feels shakier than ever, knowing which items you can buy once and depend on for years, that's not just smart, it's strategic. In this video, I'll show you 9 everyday grocery store foods that can sit in your pantry for 10 years or more with no special equipment, no fancy packaging, and no ongoing maintenance. By the end of this video, you won't just know what to buy, you'll know exactly how to store it, why it lasts, and what to avoid so you don't waste a single dollar. Let's start with item number 1, a pantry classic that's not only cheap, but practically immortal. Number 1. Freeze-dried meat. Freeze-dried meats are one of the premium assets in any long-term food supply, lean, lightweight, and built to endure when fresh meat would spoil in hours. Under ideal conditions, commercial freeze-dried meat can last 25 years or more when properly sealed, cooled, and shielded from light. The reason they last is simple. The freeze-drying process removes nearly all moisture while retaining structure and nutrients. Without water, bacteria and spoilage reactions stall. Packaging adds the rest. Sealed cans or mylar with oxygen absorbers block air, light, and moisture. But it's not magic, it's precision. Fat is your enemy. Meats with high fat content degrade faster, even when freeze-dried. That's why high-quality freeze-dried meats often use lean cuts or trim fat before processing. Storage tips you must follow. Always store in a cool, dark location below to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat accelerates decay. Keep packaging intact until use. Once opened, contents should be transferred to airtight, moisture-proof containers and used within months. Use oxygen absorbers, vacuum seal if possible, and avoid repeated exposure to air. The beauty of freeze-dried meat is in its flexibility. Just add hot water, let it rehydrate, and you get a texture and flavor close to cooked meat. Because it's lightweight and compact, you can store a lot of protein with minimal space. One tip many overlook. Test your rehydration method ahead of crisis. Some pieces hydrate faster than others. Know your times, boil water volume, and practice before you need it. With meat storage locked in, your next priority is adding caloric density and variety, exactly what you'll do when we talk freeze-dried fruits and veggies next. Number 2, molasses storage. Molasses might not be the first thing that comes to mind when building a survival pantry, but it's one of the most overlooked long-term food assets sitting quietly on grocery store shelves. Packed with dense calories, natural sugar, trace minerals like iron and calcium, and a shelf life that extends well past a decade when stored properly, molasses offers more than just flavor, it delivers function. Its longevity lies in its high sugar concentration and low water activity, which make it a hostile environment for microbial growth. In an unopened, sealed glass or tin container, and kept in a cool, dark space, molasses can last up to 10 years or more without spoiling. Even once opened, if stored correctly with the lid tightly sealed, it resists spoilage and remains usable for years. Where it really shines in a prepper context is versatility. Molasses isn't just a sweetener. It's a fermentation catalyst, a baking essential, and even a natural medicine in some traditional remedies. In situations where energy is scarce, a spoonful of molasses provides a dense calorie boost and a quick shot of sugar to keep energy levels from crashing. But here's the nuance. Not all molasses is created equal. Unsulfured blackstrap molasses is considered the gold standard for both nutrition and storage stability. It's richer, thicker, and less processed, which means it's more resilient over time. Always check that what you're buying is unsulfured and free of unnecessary additives. From a storage standpoint, molasses needs consistent conditions. Avoid direct sunlight, don't let it freeze, and keep it away from temperature fluctuations. Over time, natural crystallization may occur, but that doesn't mean it's spoiled. A gentle warm water bath will bring it back to usable form. Once you lock in molasses as your go-to sweetener and energy backup, it makes perfect sense to balance it out with shelf-stable grains or binders. And one of the most underrated forms of that? Whole grain oats, which we're covering next. Number 3, high fructose syrup. High fructose syrup is one of the most misunderstood items in food storage, often dismissed due to its industrial reputation, but in survival planning, its chemical makeup is exactly what gives it exceptional shelf life and utility. As a syrup with extremely low water activity and a high concentration of sugar, it resists microbial growth, mold, and spoilage, especially when stored in sealed containers. If kept in a cool, dark environment and left unopened, commercially packaged high fructose syrup can remain stable for over a decade, sometimes even longer. What makes it especially valuable isn't just its longevity, it's the caloric punch per ounce. In a crisis where fuel is food, high fructose syrup delivers fast-burning energy in compact form. Just a tablespoon packs upwards of 50 calories, making it a quick morale and energy booster in low food scenarios. It mixes easily into both cold and hot liquids, acts as a binding agent in makeshift baking or bar forming, and can enhance the shelf life of homemade preserves and sauces when used properly. There's also its versatility in dry goods rotation. In recipes where refined sugar would typically be used, syrup offers a liquid option that doesn't clump or attract pests like granulated sugar often can when improperly sealed. It's especially useful when rehydrating dried fruits, cereals, or even emergency protein mixes, bringing not just sweetness but viscosity and weight to meals. The only caution? Don't store it in extreme heat or near metal containers that aren't lined. Over time, acidity and temperature fluctuations can degrade both the container and the syrup. A glass jar or food-safe plastic bottle with an airtight seal is ideal. If you ever notice sugar crystallization or thickening, a brief warm water soak restores it without altering its quality. High fructose syrup is a backup energy source that requires zero prep and zero cooking, and when you're stocking for the long haul, that kind of simplicity is gold. As we line up our carbohydrate-rich backups, one of the smartest and oldest additions to your stash is up next. Oats, the underrated grain that quietly holds a decade of nutritional value. Number 4. Freeze-dried fruits and vegetables. These freeze-dried fruits are the nutritional powerhouse of long-term food storage, lightweight, compact, and remarkably shelf-stable. Unlike conventional dried fruits, which often retain 20% or more of their moisture, freeze-dried varieties have moisture content below 5%, making them resistant to mold, spoilage, and oxidation. When properly stored in sealed mylar pouches with oxygen absorbers or number 10 cans, they can last anywhere from 20 to 30 years without losing flavor or nutritional value. What makes them essential for any serious prepper isn't just their longevity, it's their impact. During a survival scenario, food fatigue is real. Eating the same carbs or proteins every day drains morale fast. Freeze-dried fruits bring color, taste, and texture that break that monotony and reintroduce variety without refrigeration. From strawberries and bananas to apples and blueberries, the range is wide and storage-friendly. They're ready to eat straight out of the pack or rehydrated with water for use in oatmeal, baking, or makeshift desserts. Their lightweight structure also makes them ideal for bug-out bags where every ounce counts. In terms of nutrients, freeze-dried fruits retain up to 90% of their original vitamins and antioxidants, something most canned goods can't compete with. To store them effectively, consistency is everything. Keep them sealed, cool, and dry. Temperature swings or broken seals lead to moisture seepage and flavor degradation. If you're storing them in bulk, consider dividing into smaller, airtight portions. That way, you only open what you need and preserve the rest for later. One of the smartest uses? Blending them into dry mixes like pancake or protein powder so you build in both flavor and vitamins. It's a small move that makes a massive difference when fresh food access disappears. With fruit checked off the list, it's time to look at the foundation of any long-term pantry: grains. And no other grain balances calories, versatility, and shelf life quite like hard, whole grain oats, the next powerhouse we'll break down. Number 5. Steel-cut oats. Oats, particularly in their whole grain form, are an elite performer in the long-term storage game. Their minimal processing preserves the inner bran and germ, which means more fiber, more nutrients, and more staying power. When vacuum sealed with oxygen absorbers in a cool, dark environment, steel-cut oats can last up to 25 years, making them a low-cost, high-nutrition cornerstone for any serious prepper pantry. They're more than just breakfast. Steel-cut oats offer a robust texture and neutral base, making them incredibly versatile. You can grind them into flour for baking, turn them into a hearty porridge, or mix into savory dishes like stews and casseroles. Their slower digestion rate also makes them a stable energy source, especially critical during extended crises when energy output needs to be efficient and sustained. Nutritionally, they're stacked, high in complex carbohydrates, loaded with soluble fiber to stabilize blood sugar, and rich in micronutrients like iron, magnesium, and B vitamins. All of this supports immune function, gut health, and cognitive focus, essential areas often compromised in survival conditions. And with a mild, slightly nutty taste, they pair easily with honey, dried fruits, powdered milk, or freeze-dried vegetables to stretch the meal variety without compromising calories. The key to shelf life is controlling humidity and oxygen exposure. Store in food-grade buckets or mylar bags, double-sealed and clearly labeled with rotation dates. Even a single breach in packaging can invite moisture, which kills longevity. And while they take longer to cook compared to rolled oats, soaking them overnight or pressure cooking can save both time and fuel. For families or groups planning multi-week reserves, oats provide a filling, reliable, and non-perishable option that can scale across dozens of recipes. Once you've locked in your grain base, the next logical step is securing variety through high-starch items, especially those like dried corn kernels, which serve both as food and seed in survival planning. Number 6. Corn kernels. Whether popcorn, field corn, or dry corn, are one of the most practical and durable additions to a long-term food supply. They offer incredible shelf stability, caloric density, and dual-function versatility that few other foods match. When stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers and kept in a cool, dark place, whole dry corn kernels can remain viable for up to 25 years without losing nutritional value or usability. Their true value, though, is in how multifunctional they are. Popcorn kernels aren't just for snacking, they're a whole grain, meaning they can be ground into cornmeal, rehydrated for soups, or even sprouted in survival scenarios. Field corn goes even further, offering a starch-rich backbone that works for flour, grits, masa, or even animal feed in homestead setups. The shelf life combined with multiple uses gives you insurance against food fatigue while securing energy-packed staples. Nutritionally, corn delivers complex carbs, a bit of protein, and trace minerals like magnesium and phosphorus. It's not complete nutrition on its own, but it plays a critical role in rounding out meals built around beans, oats, or canned proteins. And since it stores compactly, a few sealed buckets can sustain a family for weeks. Storage is non-negotiable. Moisture is the biggest threat. A single humidity breach can lead to mold or pest infiltration. Always use food-grade buckets, mylar liners, and label your storage clearly. Consider tossing in bay leaves or using gamma lids for easy access and pest resistance. A major survival benefit? Corn kernels can double as a renewable asset. With the right type, especially field corn, you're looking at a viable seed source. In a long-term grid-down or homesteading scenario, that seed becomes future food, not just stored calories. Once you've locked down grains and multi-use dry goods like corn, it's time to look at flavor and morale boosters. And nothing packs more punch in less space than powdered sugar, the next underrated item on your list. Number 7. Powdered sugar. This might seem like a luxury, but in long-term storage, it's a high-impact ingredient with an impressive shelf life. When stored in an airtight container away from heat and moisture, powdered sugar can last indefinitely without losing its texture or sweetness. Its extremely low moisture content and high sugar concentration make it naturally resistant to microbial growth, giving it an edge over many other pantry items. What makes powdered sugar especially valuable isn't just sweetness, it's utility. In a survival setting, morale matters. Meals can become monotonous and flavorless quickly. A dash of powdered sugar can transform basic grains, pancakes, or powdered milk into something comforting and familiar. It dissolves instantly, making it ideal for hot drinks, quick glazes, or makeshift frostings when baking from your prepper stockpile. Even a simple bannock or flatbread becomes a treat with just a dusting. Unlike granulated sugar, powdered sugar has a finer consistency and often contains a small percentage of cornstarch to prevent clumping. That cornstarch not only preserves the texture but also adds slight thickening power to anything it touches, ideal for quick sauces or emergency baking. In compact prepper kitchens where multi-use ingredients are gold, that dual function goes a long way. Storage is straightforward but must be precise. Avoid any exposure to humidity or high heat. If you live in a humid climate, consider double sealing in a vacuum bag and placing it inside a mylar-lined container with oxygen absorbers. Once compromised by moisture, powdered sugar tends to harden and lose its fluff, though it's still usable once broken down with a food processor or sifted. Its volume-to-weight ratio is another overlooked benefit. A relatively small container can provide a high number of servings, making it one of the most compact, morale-boosting ingredients you can stock. It takes up minimal space and never overstays its welcome in terms of flavor fatigue. With powdered sugar added to your long-term kit, you've secured not just a sweetener, but a powerful enhancer for energy, variety, and psychological comfort. And now that flavor is handled, it's time to address hydration, starting with one of the most overlooked yet essential items: electrolyte powders. Number 8. Unflavored gelatin. This is one of the most quietly powerful tools you can keep in long-term storage, and most people overlook it completely. It's shelf-stable, compact, multi-purpose, and when stored properly in airtight containers away from heat and moisture, it can last 10+ years without losing its effectiveness. But it's not just about making desserts. Gelatin plays a much deeper role in survival prep. It's a binding agent, a thickener, a stabilizer, and in a survival scenario, a way to stretch limited ingredients into more filling, structured meals. You can use it to bind together foraged ingredients into bars, turn thin broths into hearty gel-based meals, or even repair texture in rehydrated foods that feel too soft or watery. Its versatility makes it a utility item, not just a recipe extra. What gives it this power is collagen. Gelatin is a protein derived from connective tissues, meaning it also brings in added nutritional benefits. It supports joint health, digestion, and is one of the few shelf-stable protein additives that doesn't take up much space or weight. For those relying on dry goods or carbs for most of their intake, a little protein boost goes a long way. It's flavorless, which means you can add it into sweet or savory meals without conflict. And with just a bit of warm water, it instantly activates, no complex cooking needed. If morale is low or stomach issues are creeping in from bland, repetitive meals, gelatin can act as both a texture enhancer and a mild digestive aid. From a storage perspective, it's forgiving as long as you keep it sealed and dry. Packets can be vacuum sealed in bulk or stored in mason jars with oxygen absorbers for long-term use. Once gelatin is covered, you've addressed structure, digestion, and protein support. Now, it's time to layer in hydration and stamina recovery with the next essential prep: electrolyte powders. Number 9. Hard grains. Hard grains don't just survive time, they defy it. These are the true backbone of long-term food storage, chosen by preppers who think decades ahead, not just months. Wheat berries, rye, spelt, barley, these grains, when stored whole in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, can last 30+ years without compromising nutrition or usability. That kind of reliability makes them an absolute non-negotiable in any serious survival stockpile. What makes hard grains so powerful is their raw, untouched state. Because they haven't been milled, cracked, or processed, they remain dormant and protected. But once ground or sprouted, they become a foundation for endless survival recipes: bread, porridge, flour, even fermented foods like sourdough or beer if needed. A manual grain mill turns them into gold during a crisis. Nutritionally, hard grains hit every mark: complex carbs for energy, fiber for gut health, plant-based protein, and minerals like selenium, zinc, and magnesium. In a world where your diet might lean heavy on canned goods and dry starches, this is where real sustenance begins. And unlike processed grains, they won't go rancid from residual oils because they remain sealed within their natural husk. Storage requires intention. Keep them sealed in food-grade buckets or mylar bags, always with oxygen absorbers and clear labels. Avoid high heat or humidity, and you're locking in a grain that can be passed down generations. This isn't just food, it's long-haul fuel. Another major benefit? Viability. Many hard grains are still living seeds. With water and soil, you can sprout them for greens or grow a future crop, something rice, pasta, or flour can't offer. It's not just storage, it's strategy. And once you've locked in your fuel, it's time to talk about flavor and fermentation, because next up, we're breaking down the power of vinegar. You've just seen how everyday grocery items, if chosen smartly, can become the core of a survival plan that lasts not just months, but decades. And here's the truth. It's not about hoarding, it's about outsmarting uncertainty. These are the same shelves everyone walks past, but only a few know how to stock them right. If you made it this far, you're not just watching, you're planning. And that puts you ahead of 95% of people. But there's more where this came from. Deeper tactics, smarter lists, and field-tested prep strategies that go way beyond the basics. So don't just scroll to the next video. Hit that subscribe button right now, because the next 30 seconds of information could be the one that locks in your family's safety when everything else runs out. We're not done prepping, we're just getting started.